Alright, we are back at DIY German Air-Cooled Garage, and today we are going to put the motor back in the bus. The bus is out from underneath the ghetto rod. It's not dirt lot anymore, it's rolling. Tranny's in, motor's going to go in today. It's still not ready to go down the road, but we need to put brakes on it and stuff like that, which a little sketchy getting into this spot without any brakes. But anyway, we're going to put the motor in today. It's a pretty simple procedure. We're going to get it done. It's beautiful out here, and here we go. Alright, so step one is to jack up the bus. As I mentioned before, bus doesn't have any brakes right now, no emergency brake, no hydraulic brakes. So put a brick, or a couple of bricks. Make sure you got one on each side. Alright, so we've got our jack pad. You know this jack pad works for all Volkswagens and Porsches with your jack. So you don't need to get the bus up too high, but you need to get it up high enough to where you can get some jack stands under it. Make sure it's safe. Give yourself a little bit of room to work underneath there because you're going to be needing to access some motor mounts. You're going to tighten up some stuff there. The heater cables or heater box is going to have to be hooked up. So basically that should probably be just about right. Again, you want to jack it underneath, or put your jack stand underneath the torsion tube. And that looks great. And then the other side. Alright, we're back here at the back end of the motor. You can see your clutch, flywheel, your motor mounts, your heater box actuations. This is where your throttle cable goes through. You got fuel lines which will mount from the front, from the gas tank up here. But basically, this section right here is going to mate up with the transmission. Again, these motor mounts will line up right here. We'll bolt them in from the back. Then we've got motor mounts up here on the top. We'll also be connecting the throttle cable, which is right here, our two heater box cables as well. Again, that mates up down here. But first, before all that goes in and mates up, we got to make sure that we put the throwout bearing on there correctly. The throwout bearing is what is activated from the clutch pedal. So we'll put that on, but basically throwout bearing mates with the clutch, which allows you to then shift the car. So there we go. Next step is to get this motor off of this roll-around cart onto our jack, move it into position, line these up, and make sure we capture the clutch disc, and then slide the motor on and bolt it up. Alright, now we're going to put the throwout bearing onto the shaft here, or actually onto the clutch fork here, but the throwout bearing retainer clips are basically just look like a little spring. One end's curved, and that's the side. The curved end goes into the little hole that's on the clutch fork, and basically it goes like that. But then we have to get it in through that little hole on the throwout bearing to make sure that it stays into place. So this can be a little bit of a wrestle fest, but basically you're going to get your spring in here like so. Push that over as best you can. Grab the other clip. Use the little curved end in there. And then bring that around to the other side. There we go. Almost there. Almost there. Come on, you can do it. There it is. Basically turn this around like that. We've got our two retaining springs on there on our throwout bearing. And again, that's connected to the clutch pedal, and that pushes on the back of the clutch. We did not replace the clutch on this, so we didn't have to deal with any of the alignment stuff, but there we go. Good to go. Alright, we've got the motor off of the roll-around stand onto the jack. That's it. You can do that by yourself if you need to, as the motor's not that heavy, but with two people it's really easy. The jack, I put it basically right around the oil drain pan underneath. The jack pad's about that big, the drain pan's about that big. So now all we have to do is get ready to slide the motor in there. We're obviously going to have to lift it up a little bit. Alright, well this is where it would be nice if we had a nice smooth cement garage, but again, DIY. Doing the best we can. You can see here I've got to lift the motor up to clear the carburetors, which is, it's expected. You can see one hand balancing it. These motors like to balance pretty good. So far I'm almost up to where get it in there. Oh, there we go. You gotta watch out here and not go too high. Okay, what am I hitting on? Constantly be looking at stuff. All right, looks good. Oh, I see. There we go. Now the jacket's got to move, so making sure it's going the right direction. So close. There we go. Now, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get under there and find those motor mounts. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of prop this motor up with the other jack. Kind of take a look at things underneath there and make sure we're lining up correctly. So, got to crawl under there for a minute. Okay, we've got the motor suspended here on the jack. You can see the jack pad underneath the motor encompassing the oil drain pan there. So we've come down here to look at the motor mounts to see if they're lining up pretty well, and they are. I mean, they're right there. So looks like the clutch or the shaft out of the transmission's looking lined up as well. So we just have to go back up to the top, close this gap. Other than that, so far so good. Now it's time to put the throttle cable on before we put mated the motor up to the transmission. You got a lot of room in here, so it's really nice and easy to do that. But you basically just shove it through the throttle hose right there, and then we're gonna slide the motor up onto the tranny and bolt up the motor mounts. Now we've gone back here to the back of the motor. We can see the throttle cables come through. It's going to attach to the linkage for the carburetors, and we're good. Now we're gonna get ready to do the final slide in on the motor and then start attaching the motor mounts. Alright, so now the motor's pretty much lined up on the motor mounts. We just got to kind of wiggle it in there. Don't peel my pants off. Anyway, alright. Alright, it's probably pretty much on there. Let's look. Alright, looks great. Now we'll just start bolting it up. Okay, we've got our 17 millimeter closed or box end wrench, and then we're gonna go ahead and tighten down the lower motor mount here, and then we'll move on to the one right next to it, and then we'll move on to the top motor mounts. But we're not going to tighten this one all the way down right now, as it's the first one. We don't want to put too much torque on anything in one area. So we'll tighten that one down pretty tight, just so the motor will hang, and then we'll move over to the other one, get this one tight, and from there the motor should hang okay just for a minute while we get the upper motor mount, which is the one that's attached to the starter right above this one. Okay, now we need to do the upper motor mount. Again, another 17 millimeter nut, and it's going to be right on the back side of the starter. As we had shown you in the previous episode, there's a long bolt in there with a welded T on it to keep it from spinning. So it's basically right straight over the top here. So you want to get your hand back there and just kind of go find the starter. There it is, I can feel it. That nut and then, or that bolt. And you don't want to push hard on it because you don't want to push it through, so you have to crawl back under and then push it back through so you can get some threads. Anyway, you take your 17 and then get back there again gingerly. Find it. I found it. Now I'm just gingerly threading it on there. Alright, I got it. Now I just have to tighten it down. Pretty good with my fingers. Got my 17. I always use the cut end because it gives me, I made this one special because I liked it shorter. So basically it makes it less cumbersome. And I actually made this wrench specifically for this nut about 20 years ago. So I've had this wrench a long, long time. All right, so we're the upper left-hand side of the transmission mounting bolt pattern, northwest corner. This one's a little bit easier to reach as you don't have that starter in the way. So again, it's a 17 millimeter. You put the nut on there, you find it, you get it started, and then you start tightening it down. So there's only 4 bolts that hold the engine onto the transmission, and they're all the 17 millimeter, and that's what makes it so easy to bolt it up. The motor's in. It's hanging there by itself. It's bolted up. Everything's good to go. Now we still have to hook up the wires and the heater and the heater cable and the fuel and all that stuff, but it's in there. It's hanging on its own, so it's fantastic. But it wasn't without some wrestling. I did have to do a little bit of fabrication. The heater boxes didn't want to clear some of the engine compartment tin, so I just basically got in there and wrestled around. Had to do it a 3 times, both sides. But also another thing that had to be fabricated here with my same tool was the bumper mount for the bus here. Didn't clear the exhaust on this side, so had to get in there and just kind of lip it over and make it work. Now that could have been because of some accident on my bus, something unique there, but I guess the message is it looked like it went in real easy, and it did. But understanding that if something's not working right, it's not working right. You got to get in there and look and see if maybe you got to clearance something a little bit. So really excited. Went in, still light out, so it didn't take us very long. So on to the next steps, just buttoning everything else up. So really excited. Okay, we're at the bottom of the motor, all the way at the back of the heater box, and we need to hook up the linkage that allows us to control heat going into the cabin of the bus. So you see here, this is kind of snug. It's nice. You can see the hole here for the cable connector, and you want to pull your linkage forward like so to give yourself some clearance, and then basically find the cable, run it through like so. Take your, well, in this case a 5/16, probably like an 8 on a 8 millimeter. And you just tighten the cable connector down. Let's get that on there tight, and then we'll have to do the other side, but shouldn't be any more difficult than that. You can see now this is all connected up through this cable connector. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to connect the hot air coming off the heater box into the cabin. So you have a hose like such. So if you look just right in front of the linkage, you take their hose and put it onto the heater box, and then you slide it onto the fresh air of the heater inlet into the cabin. So you do this on both sides. You got the linkage, you got the hose, put it in the cabin, you're good to go. You got heat for your bus. Alright, all we have now is hoses and wires left to put together on it, and the first thing we're going to work on hoses, but specifically fuel line. I took the fuel line out and the inline filter. We're going to replace that. I wanted to show you the old filter that was in there. As you know, I had the gas tank resealed because it was all rusty, and if you look inside this fuel filter, there's all this dirt looking sandy stuff. That's actually rust. You can see it coming out of the fuel filter. So new carburetor, all new stuff in there. I don't want to go and put something nasty in there. We got the new inline fuel filter in there. Now we've got this end which connects onto the fuel pump here, and then this end is going to connect onto what's coming out of the gas tank. You can see you've got an arrow here which denotes what direction the fuel is supposed to travel in. So basically we're going to put this through here like so, and we'll connect it to the fuel pump right up here. Okay, we're back here at the oil lines that we had installed with our new oil pump, which had the external ins and outs. You can see the pump's got the in and out labeled on that. Also, you'll find with your oil manifold that have in and out flow directions listed on the top here. We're going to, again, mount this into the wheel well area there, but we're also going to go ahead and put in a thermostat, and this will also go into inline. And then from here you can see out of the oil pump That's out, so that goes into here. And then when the thermostat is up to temperature, it's going to go ahead and send oil to the filter. When it doesn't, it basically turns it around and sends it back to the engine until it's up to 180 degrees. What we find here in the Northwest is that it's so cold that until the engine temperature comes up to an acceptable level, you run the chance of blowing up your oil filter like a tin can. So here in the Northwest, when it's cold, it just makes it a little bit more reliable or safe, knowing that you're not going to blow up your oil filter. Okay, now we're at the wires phase. We're going to start from the right side of the passenger side of the car, work our way over to the left of the driver's side. I just wanted to go through and explain all the wires first before we start hooking them up. But starting on the passenger side, you've got your battery connector and all your positives. We're not going to hook this up yet until we're ready to start the car. We don't want to put any electricity through the car, as it may ground out as we're putting on a wire or something like that. So anyway, that's your battery cable. This is going to go on last, but it goes over in this area right next to the battery. The wire next to it right here, this is your oil pressure sender. It goes, basically it'll wind its way behind the generator stand and connect there. This is the wire for the giving us a positive charge or electricity to the MSD ignition. So we'll run that all the way over here and give the MSD ignition power. And then we have right here our positive power coming off of the alternator, which charges the battery and keeps the car running. And then this is just the on and off wire from the regulator, basically telling the alternator to charge or not. Then you have here your points, which is in this case the electronic points. I've removed the points and put the basically magnetic pickup style points. These are going to run over to the MSD ignition as well, and then from here we've got our power again to the MSD as well as to the points, and then we have coming from the MSD onto the coil, which is going to fire the coil based on what the points tells it. So I've taken pictures of all of this wiring before we did the disassembly, have it on my computer, but as you see, it's pretty basic. If you start on the right side and move over to the left, it's a little bit easier, as all of this wiring here is pretty obvious as how it lays on the engine. Over here, the MSD gets a little bit more complicated, but you can always go back to your instructions or go back to your pictures. So we're going to start from the right and move to the left. All right, hooking the generator wire up to this pole. You got your pole, you got your washer. Got all that right on there. Take your little wrench. Same wrench as we use for the heater connectors. Get it on there tight. And then we connect the other wire, which tells the generator to charge or not. This wire just goes to the pole that's right on the top of the alternator right there. It's the only one. And there you go. No, this is not quite tight. There it is. Now we're good. Alright, so we've run the power wire and the oil pressure wire behind the generator. And you take the oil pressure wire and put it on the end of the sender unit right there. The other wire is the positive wire that's going to be used for the MSD ignition. That just plugs in right there. So there we go. We've got positive power there. The next step is to take the wires from the points, which are coming off here. You got your red and your black, positive and negative. Run them behind the oil lines there so it looks better. And then we find the positive and negative. So we have a red wire there, a red wire there. That connects like so. Then we have a black wire, which is coming off the MSD there. We've got the black wire coming off the points again. Goes right in there. They're mated. Then we've got the MSD wire that controls the spark, or basically which was the points, which you've got this wire here. Run it behind the oil lines, and you've got the black and red, or positive and negative. So you put the red on the positive side of the coil, like so, and the negative on the negative side of the coil, like so. And that is it for all the wiring. Ta-da! All right, motor's in, it's done, wires are hooked up, fuel line's on. Everything's ready to go. The next steps are really just to put finish putting the oil lines on and the oil filter, and then go through the startup procedures. So we're basically done, except for putting on this cowling. It's a travesty that we're covering all this stuff up. This is so cool. I am so excited how this project turned out. You can see the carburetors mounted in there, really nice. Everything fits, looks muscular. Exhaust is just super cool. Degree puller, oil cooling with the lines. Everything's clean, everything's painted. It's just gonna look fabulous. So I just want to put this in here just to see how it looks. But basically, we are ready to go with putting this baby back together. So excited to go and drive it again. So with that, I think that's it. We are concluded for German DIY Aircooled Garage vintage bus motor install. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.